Welcome to a week of training for TCR. Let's go!
So, what is TCR? TCR is the Transcontinental Race. And basically, every year it's a sort of different distance and a different route. But the basis of it is it's an ultra cycling race, which is completely unsupported, and it goes across Europe. So this year, it's from northwest Spain all the way over to Romania, and you've got a couple of checkpoints which you have to go through, and coupled with them are parcours, which are basically little sections that you have to go through. But then in between those sections, you can go wherever you want. Obviously, you want to find the most optimal route between those sections to be the fastest and also to be the easiest to complete it. But yeah, my route currently is about 4,800 kilometers, and the time limit on that is roughly about 18 days. So it's going to be one hell of a challenge, and I cannot wait for it. Oh, and I forgot the best part. I'm a Bursuit rider. So that basically means that some of the costs of the event is covered by TCR, and I get coaching from Robbie Britton, and I get some extra sort of mentoring, and also some sort of gifts from the sponsors, which is absolutely amazing, and I'm so grateful for it, because otherwise I just would not be able to afford it, or I wouldn't have done it, which is amazing. So grateful for it, especially the coaching, because the coaching is really cool. Feeling like a pro with a coach, it's very cool. And he's just not any coach. Robbie's an incredible athlete, and he's very experienced. He's got the 24-hour British running record. I think he still has it, which is just absolutely bonkers. It's something crazy, like 270 kilometers run in 24 hours. So yeah, he's got loads of experience, and he calms me down because I don't know, I like to go full gas a lot, and normally those full gases are in the zone 2 rides, and then my intensity rides are just kind of an afterthought. So he's really good. He's really good and gives me lots of tips, as you'll see throughout this week. Let me just turn the fan off. So, first workout of the week is basically just 45 minutes of just spinning the legs. So that's going to be like 170 watts, 170, 180 watts. And then in the last 3 quarters, so last 15 minutes, I'm doing some strength bursts. And apparently this, let me explain what actually strength burst is. So strength burst is basically, you go to a standstill or near standstill, and you do 6 pedal strokes on each leg, and you basically do it like full pelt for 6 pedal strokes, and then you rest like a minute or two, 2 to 3 minutes, and then you do it again, and you're supposed to do it like 2 to 3 times, and it's sort of similar to the sort of gym, where you're sort of pushing resistance but very cycling focused, which is really good, because it's sort of what I need training for TCR. So I quite like this one because I'm a bit of a gym rat, and I've been going to the gym for quite a while, since I was like 14, so 9 years or something. A bit of on and off, but yeah, I really like going to the gym, and this stimulates the sort of same muscles or same feeling as going to the gym, so it's quite nice, and it's quite a nice start to the week, because even though like I'm not incredibly fatigued right now, because I've done 3 weeks of pretty consistent, very good training, 16, 17 hours. I think I did 21 hours, not last week, the week before. So I'm not incredibly fatigued, but it's quite nice to start the week with a somewhat easy workout. Let's go. One thing I've been loving is how low my heart rate gets when I'm doing sort of easy riding. So after my ride in the morning, I went obviously to work. So I'm doing a working student. Very secretive stuff. So not allowed to tell you. But yeah, it's very good fun. So just finished, and then I'm gonna go off back to do a bit of spin on the turbo, make my meal prep for the week, and then get cracking on some work again. Let's go. Let's get some training done. So now we're doing a bit of meal prep because nutrition is key when doing a lot of sort of training load. So yeah, how I sort of base my meals is pretty much is exactly the same every day, just to stay consistent, and I don't really feel like I need to eat anything different every single day. So basically what I do is in the morning I have porridge, which is 100 grams of oats, load of milk, a bit of sort of flax seeds and chia seeds, because it tastes quite nice, and sometimes I have a protein shake, and then for lunch and dinner I basically have rice, chicken, lots of lentils and mixed vegetables with a tiny bit of olive oil, and that's pretty much it. And then most days, because I'm doing about 3 hours of exercise each day, well 2 to 3, I'll have about 250 grams of pasta that I just cook basically on the day, just to give me sort of a bit more energy, and make sure I'm not in too much of a deficit. But yeah, going back to the sort of meal prepping, I do normally about 3 days worth of food, so that's 6 meals, lunch and dinner, all at once, and basically just do that twice a week. And it saves on sort of time management skills, it saves on sort of time, but also it's just sort of easier, not having to cook every day. Well, I guess that links into time, but yeah, it's quite nice not having to worry about cooking every day, other than making a bit of pasta now and again. So on the topic of fueling, I thought I'd go through sort of what I do when I'm actually on the bike. So I worked out the sort of cheapest way to get fuel in whilst I'm still getting quite high quality nutrition, sort of. So basically, table sugar is half fructose, half glucose, and a lot of nutrition brands out there sort of aim for about 1-to-1 or 2-to-1, depending on sort of what they're going for. Oh, got to take the lentils off the heat, otherwise they'll go overheat. And yep, they'll spill. Nutrition brands sort of aim for about 2-to-1, 1-to-1, and I find that about 1-to-1 is pretty good for me. And that's what table sugar is. So in my bottles, I just put 100 grams, 120 grams sometimes if it's a hard workout, in about 800 mils of water, and that keeps me fueled all I want. But there's times where liquid fuel doesn't really please me enough, so I quite like to sort of chew on stuff, or just like eat stuff. So I basically, the cheapest way to do that is just with sweets. So I basically get like a bunch of sweets, all different sort of flavours, and I basically just spread it out. So in here is about 100 grams of sweets, which is about 80 grams of carbs, and that does pretty much everything I need. It's really cheap, it's very, very cheap. I think I worked it out, and it's about, depending what sort of sweets you get and sort of how cheap it is, but I know I can get about 300 grams of sweets for about €1.29, and that works out about things like 170 grams of carbs per euro, where you look at sort of gels and stuff and they're ridiculous, how much that is, like how much you're paying per 100 grams of carbs. And sometimes I also don't like to just stick to sort of sticky sweets and stuff, so I quite like these, and these are basically, let me get a good lighting, doesn't really work. There we go. So these are basically just some oat bars that are really quite nice. They're very chewy, and they do very well. But they're a bit more expensive, and they're quite carb heavy. 6 grams of carbs every 100 grams, so still quite carb heavy, but they have a bit of fat, so they're not exactly optimal, but they taste nice and they're a bit of variety for the super long rides. But I mainly don't rely on them. So now we're back on the bike, doing an hour and 20, an hour and 30 minutes. Just again, light spin, because this week is all about intensity. So, day 2, and it's a bit more of an intense day. So today, just sat on the bike, just spinning legs for 60 minutes in the morning, and then at lunchtime I'll be doing an interval session, and then after that I'll be going to the gym. One of the things I've been trying to play around with the most to sort of get the most out of my intervals is when I'm doing my hard intervals. If I do them in the morning, they'll be terrible, but if I do them around lunchtime or at least after 11, then they'll be quite good high quality, especially if I'm caffeinated. So now I'm about to do session 2 of Tuesday. So I've got semi-hard session. It's basically 10 times. I've just worked out I've done it 9 times instead of 10. 1 second. So as I was saying, 10 times 1 minute or 10 times 60 seconds. I'm going to try and aim for about 400 watts. We'll see if I can get that, because that's quite high. But if I can do more than 380 watts, and then that'll be good. So yeah, it's basically that, and then it finishes off with a 6-minute FTP sort of interval. So yeah, should be good. Let's get cracking. So workout just done. Went pretty good. Did pretty decent power numbers. Was like around 390 to 400 for all of the 1 minute sessions, and then the 300 watts at the end. Felt really good. It was hard, but it wasn't like full pelt hard, which is really good. That's also to be expected with your 2 sort of efforts. They're supposed to be hard. So yeah, overall, good workout. Now time to get back to work after a quick spin, and then off to the gym later. So you're gonna be like, you've done it right there. So gym session just done. I've sort of adapted my sort of strength training sessions
to sort of maximise my sort of strength that I gain from it for the cycling. And because basically what I was doing before was sort of mainly going to failure, which is great for hypertrophy and sort of like muscle building. But if you leave 2 reps in reserve, then you gain sort of more, well, you don't gain more strength, you just don't gain as much sort of fatigue, but you're also gaining quite a lot of strength from it. And because my sort of focus is mainly sort of training on the bike, it helps a lot. So you'll see a lot of my sets aren't failure, and they're mainly about 5 to 6 reps, because that's what I'm mainly focusing on, and trying to keep the upper body soft to a limit, and not be too heavy on the legs either. So just general strength and conditioning.
Time to go for a run. So I normally try and get in about 1 run a week, just because I want to keep sort of my running legs there whilst I still train. But these runs are very low. They're like low intensity. They're normally around 120 to 130 beats per minute. So super low and more of a shakeout, but it's good fun. It's good.
So now onto a 3-hour ride. It's a lovely day for it, but it's a little windy and currently into a headwind. Taking it really quite easy because it's an easy ride. So this is the stats. Now I've got to turn around and go into a tailwind, which I can't wait for. So because the main focus of my training right now is all about intensity, these longer, easier rides and even my shorter, easy rides are at super low intensity. And that's intentionally done by Robbie, because right now the main focus of my training should be about intensity. One, I'm very far away from TCR, so I'm currently about 120 days away from TCR, and so there doesn't need to be that much specificity, and so I'm just doing sort of general sort of cycling fitness. But 2, at the start of the year and the end of last year, I did a hefty base training season, and so that adaptation for sort of my endurance stuff just won't be there. Whereas if I do it for high intensity stuff, it'll be very much there. So that's the focus.
And now we're on to Thursday. So today is going to be a semi-hard session, 8 by 2 minutes, and then followed up just after by some sort of strength intervals like we did on Monday. But that's the only session of today. So got up early, doing a bit of work, then we'll go to DLR and do the session about 12, just to make sure I'm fully awake and I can maximise sort of my potential in that sort of interval. See you then.
It's still Thursday, and it's VO2 max session. Just warming up. It's gonna be a good session.
So yesterday's workout was maybe not the best. I got to the 6th rep and the leg gave out. I don't know what it was, whether it was not my day or I put it too high, but yeah, that wasn't the best. But I continued with the workout, just didn't get to full 2 minutes at the end of it. And then after that, I had a meeting with the other TCR bursary riders, and we talked about sort of the kit we're going to take and got a bit of guidance, and maybe realised I probably need a new set of wheels because I've got 2 little spokes. So yeah, it's good fun.
So I potentially didn't explain the spoke count that well. So basically what was just said was just if you have more spokes, then there's less chance of the spoke breaking, and with my wheel set I would have to take the cog off, or the cassette, to be able to change the rear spoke on the drive side. So yeah, currently looking for a better wheel set that's a bit suited. It may still get me through the 24 spokes, but there's less risk if I can at least change the spoke quite easily on the go.
But no, I really like these sessions because it's a good chance to speak to some sort of more experienced riders for something that I have very little idea of what I'm going to take. So yeah, that's going to be good fun. So yeah, especially with like having Coach Robbie there and Andrew Phillips, who is race coordinator for TCR. So yeah, it's a good group. But now the plan for today is just a 2-hour easy ride. Just spin the legs out, and then later today we'll hit the gym, sort of do a bit of strength and conditioning, not too much, and then take it easy before the big weekend. Well, it's not big, it's just the weekend.
But if you have any suggestions on potential wheel sets which have either 28 or 32 spokes and are quite easily changeable for your spoke, then it would be great if you could pop it down in the comments, and maybe it will help me do the race properly.
So now it's currently Saturday morning, just past 7 o'clock. Last night was an interesting night. There's a party underneath me, so that woke me up for a bit of time, so sleep wasn't the best, but the grind continues. Anyway, today I've got basically a V2 max session that is like, you basically do 2 minutes, 1 minute rest, and then 1 minute again, and then you rest. Like, that's one set basically, and you do that 3 times. Hopefully going to be aiming for about 350 watts. But just as I got on the bike this morning, connected to my Stages power meter, okay, then went off, made my breakfast and stuff, and then all of a sudden my Stages power meter just turned off and I can't get back on. So we're using the Zwift Hub power meter, which I find to be quite inaccurate by like a couple of percent lower. So we'll see what happens with this. Well, update, I found a new coin cell battery to put in my power meter, so we're back on the power meter. Let's go. So VO2 max session just done. Was better than Thursday. Yeah, I started quite easy, like 340 watts, and then I ramped up to, well, the second one was like 350, 355, and then the last one was like 370, and I think that was perfect. Like, maybe I could have done the first one at 350 as well, but it's a very good session, especially for being this early in the morning. Not great sleep. I'll take it.
So ride just done, was very easy. Headwind on the way back, but tailwind on the way there. Headwind on the way back, but tailwind on the way back. Headwind on the way there, but tailwind on the way back. I can't even speak. I'm very tired after work. Not really sleeping well last night, and having a decent day today. But yeah, heading over to my girlfriend's just to, because she's going to South America for 3 weeks. So yeah, I guess that concludes this day of training. On to tomorrow. Tomorrow I've got 4 or 5 hours of just easy riding, but I'll probably split it into 2 because I have work at 10, probably until 4. So it's just better to sort of like have half in the morning, half in the evening, because otherwise I'll be going until like 8 o'clock at night, maybe 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, depending on when I get out of work. So yeah, looking forward to that, but looking forward to bed tonight.
getting a bit of recovery. Had to stop that ride a bit early because my neighbours downstairs may have complained about the noise from the turbo. So, came up with a genius solution that's pretty cheap to one, get a bit of mobility in the bike, because being quite rigid on the turbo is quite bad, but two, stopping all noise. And we needed some toilet paper.
Just like that. Obviously you have to do it to the front too.
But yeah, amazing. So that's that done. Sadly only an hour and 15 done in the morning, so I'll probably do 3 hours in the evening, which will be okay because I'll do it outside.
So now to finish off, I'm going to do 2 to 3 hours outside after work, so I'm a bit tired, but it's quite a pretty day, even though it's a bit cold. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. A nice wind down to the end of the week before uni starting tomorrow, which is very exciting. But yeah, that concludes this week.
Just to interrupt you, back yesterday. Well, now it's Monday, and I didn't do 3 hours. I got out the door, and about 20 minutes in, I felt shit, like really shit. So I just basically turned around, call it a day, and basically went to bed at like I think it was like 7 o'clock. So I had like 11 hours sleep, which was amazing. But yeah, mainly the sort of focus, as I've sort of said before, is about doing the high intensity stuff, trying to improve my power on the sort of high end of the scale. So doing endurance is not the focus. So as long as I keep my endurance there, whilst also improving my sort of power on the upper end of the scale, is completely fine. So I'd rather sacrifice a bit of training for Sunday if it makes me in a better position for Tuesday when I do high intensity again. So yeah, very good. Now I can end the video. Thank you very much for watching.